SOTC. Number 28, the next morning. I was sitting in my office here at SOTC, just kind of wondering what there is about this chapter that would maybe help somebody. Maybe someone hearing this today would think and make a difference in their life. That's the reason why we did the whole thing. So we just try to take 4 or 5 minutes and put something out there that's going to make you stop for a second, maybe change how you look at things, change how you see things. You know, this chapter's got some stuff in it about David again. We talk a lot about David in this book, King David. The reason is, you know, the bloodline of Jesus came through David, and David was a fighter. And if you've ever been to an SOTC meeting, you know, there's 100 guys in there, and most all of them are fighters. So everything that we do and everything that we say always has kind of a slant to it toward fighters. So if you're a fighter, and what I mean by that is someone who wants to push the gospel, you're not satisfied with sitting around, and there's some things that are going to help you. If you're not a fighter, maybe you think there's something wrong with all of us, and you're probably right. But I want to read to you something here that is very interesting in this chapter 28. It says it's called the next morning. So what do you do? What do you do when there's every reason in the world why things should be going a certain way, and you're looking forward to maybe something being different the next morning, like things are going to change, like maybe there's a meeting that they're going to have, they're going to talk about your integrity at work, and you're pretty sure the next morning you're going to get a raise. I mean, there's reasons why you should get a raise or a promotion, and then when the next morning comes, it doesn't turn out the way that you want it to. What do you do then, man? What happens then? And so that's what this chapter's about. David met with his best buddy, Jonathan, who was King Saul's son. They were best pals, and David told him, hey man, I think your dad wants to kill me. And Jonathan said, no man, my dad tells me everything. You can read it, it's all in the Bible. Actually, his verses are in here too. My dad tells me everything. There's no way that he wants to kill you. And David said, yeah, well, like he's throwing spears at me and stuff. So I think you might be wrong. And Jonathan says, no way. He goes, listen, why don't you hide out here for a couple of days? Let me go talk to my dad. Let me see if I can reason with him, and I'll get back to you. And if I shoot the arrows over the kid that's with me that's supposed to be retrieving the arrows, you know it's going to be bad news. So for a couple of nights, man, David is all on his own, and here's what he's thinking. Man, I wonder if this thing's going to go down the way that it should go down. And there's some people right now listening to this that are thinking the same thing. Hey, I know things are supposed to go down a certain way, and I'm counting on them to. Well, what do you do the next morning when they don't? Now follow me through on this, because I want to read this to you. There's a couple of reasons why David should have had a great degree of confidence that things were going to go good for him. Number one, he was anointed by Samuel to be the king. Number two, he played the harp and was the only cat that could bring peace to the king. Number three, he was the king's best friend. Number four, the king's daughter loved him. She certainly could pull some strings. Number five, he married the king's daughter and was part of the king's family. Number six, he knew he didn't do anything wrong. And number seven, he was a bad dude. He could kick anybody's butt, and he could protect the king and the kingdom. So there's 7 reasons there that David should have absolutely thought that the next morning things were going to go good. But what happened on the next morning, man? Jonathan came out, said, I'm sorry, dude. He shot the arrow over the kid's head to signify that it's bad. You got to get out of town. My dad's after you. Basically, here's what it was. Get going or die. So the Bible says that David hugged Jonathan. They cried. They were best buddies, man. And he left. He never saw Jonathan again. But see, he had to get out of town because of what was coming down on him. The next morning didn't turn out the way that he thought it was going to. The disciples, it said they were all out on the fishing boat. They all went back to fishing. The next morning after the crucifixion, man, they figured Jesus was dead. Everything he said wasn't true. We better get back to doing what we know, which is fishing. They went out fishing, and what's the Bible tell you? The next morning, Jesus was sitting there on the beach at the fish fry. He was way out ahead of them. As a matter of fact, Jesus had told them all along, you're going to go through some hard times, but when it's done, I'll meet you over here in Galilee, and we'll get it together. The next morning didn't turn out too good for them. There's times in your life, man, where God sees what's coming your way, and he needs for you to pivot and to adjust and to move. And there's times it's coming where basically it says get going or die. And maybe it's not your physical life. Maybe what it is your spiritual life. You need to get going or die. I remember I went through the same thing, man. I do talk about somebody, you know, the old song, when a man loves a woman. I don't think I treated very many women good in my life, but this one particular time I thought that I had, and I really thought that she was the one that God had for me. We were together for a couple of years, and all of a sudden she decided that she was going to go another route. Well, this was a church that I got saved in, and I didn't know what to do, man. I couldn't go to church because she was there, and I wanted to think about God, but I couldn't because I couldn't stop thinking about her. I didn't know what to do, but in my mind, it was the same thing that David heard back then: move or die. Spiritually, if I stayed there in that church, I would die. I would dry up. I'd get bitter. I probably wouldn't be here today for sure. For absolutely sure, I wouldn't be here today. So it was a situation where I had to move on or die spiritually. So some of you, maybe you got saved in that church that you're in. Maybe you've had your heart broken. I've experienced. There's nothing worse. I'd rather have 14 broken bones. At least I can go to the hospital and get better. That broken heart thing's horrible. It's like this freaking rusty hook that comes from space and grabs your gut and rips it out, and it doesn't go away. You know, it's a terrible pain. So you're in a church, maybe you're in a Bible study, you're in a fellowship group, you're somewhere with other people that God has brought you into your life. The same that God had brought Jonathan into David's life, right? The same way the disciples were brought into Jesus' life. They had a purpose, right? So you're somewhere where God has brought you, but now it's time to move. It's not a good place to be, but if you'll just hang on for a little while and take hope from this chapter 28, the next morning. If you'll just wait and see what God will bring in your life, some new things, some fresh things, but you've got to look to Him and trust Him. And even though David's heart was broken, he headed out because he knew he had to leave or die. And you might be in the same position, but take heart, man. It may feel like you're dying when you're leaving, but you're actually getting life by leaving. So take that to heart, somebody who's maybe in a tough spot today. God bless you.